but this one right here, I mean, an amazing costume.
Oh, thank you. It was my first cosplay ever.
That was her first delving into cosplay, and obviously I was like, well, I got to do something too. You know what I mean? I want to, because that was our first time actually getting to go to San Diego Comic-Con. So
nice. Let's go do this podcast. What's going on, Star Wars fans?
Hello there.
I have some really cool people here today that we're going to talk to on Star Wars Jedi Chat. Mr. Paul Marion and his lovely wife, TJ. How are you guys?
We're great.
Very good. Very good. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. I've been following you guys for a while. TJ, your cosplay, and Paul, your tattooing and your cosplay as well. You guys, it's just amazing some of the stuff that you guys do in both art forms, and I love it. So can you want to tell me a little bit about yourselves?
Yeah, so we live here in Colorado, and I've been tattooing for 17 years this year, and Star Wars has been a major part of my whole life, really. I mean, I wish I was able to see them when they first came out, but I'm in a different generation, so I got to see them when they re-released them in the theaters. When they re-released the original trilogy, my dad took me, and ever since then, it was just like instant, like, this is the coolest thing ever. So luckily now I've been getting to do a lot more like Star Wars tattoos, and we've met so many amazing people in the community because of the tattooing and because of like everything she's been doing. So it's just like love of Star Wars in all aspects. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I have always loved Star Wars. I was a prequels kid. It's just, I was the perfect age. The first Phantom Menace came out when I was like 7 or 8. So I saw it in theaters and I loved it. And it's kind of just like, I've always loved Star Wars, but it's just blossomed because we always say we're like 2 drug addicts, but our drug of choice is Star Wars. So we just like feed off each other, and then our whole house is Star Wars. So I have always loved lightsabers, and like dressing up is like such a huge thing to me. So I started learning how to spin and started a TikTok, and it just kind of took off, and we've just been running with it, and we're really happy. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. And like I said, I've seen you guys and some of the stuff, and we'll go ahead and share some of it throughout the podcast. But this one right here, I mean, we talked real briefly, I think through Messenger or something, TJ, and this is an amazing costume.
Oh, thank you. It was my first cosplay ever. So
that was her first kind of like delving into cosplay, and so obviously I was like, well, I got to do something too. You know what I mean? I want to, because that was our first time actually getting to go to San Diego Comic-Con. So
nice.
Ventress is like her character. I mean,
she just embodies, like, other than like the killing so many people, but she just like, she just embodies like who I am. And I am very Jedi, like I have Jedi tattoos. Jedi is my life, but at the same time, like Ventress is who I am and I can't deny it. So
we thought, and I had like just finished the Dark Disciple book, like pretty recently before we started like really getting that. So I was like, well, I got to do Quinlan. It's Quinlan and Ventress to Comic-Con. That was my first like time actually cosplaying at a convention too. So that would kind of just opened up.
Well, and I was surprised, like the response for Quinlan and Ventress was crazy. People were so excited.
It wasn't me. Let's be
excited to see.
It was Quinlan. This one. I mean, in that full mythos Ventress, it was insane, and like
so much crying over that costume. I probably cried more tears than I have in my life.
But I remember even it took us an hour just to get to the front door from our hotel, which was a block away, because just even before the front door, 50 to 100 people had to take a picture with her. It was crazy.
So cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's just it. You know, when there's so many cool costumes and stuff out there, and there's so many people that are involved in this community, which is so neat. Like you said, you know, you going just from the hotel over to the convention, and so many people recognized that, you know. So I know you had to freak out during Ahsoka when all of a sudden we get Dathomir, and I was like, it was so cool.
So many moments. I had to make sure that people around me when I was watching that show fully accepted me for who I was, because there was yelling, screaming, crying, excitedness. Ventress' name was said for the first time in live action, and I was like, oh, what does this mean? Can we do a prequels? Like, I was so excited.
And it was funny because I was away for work. I was guest spotting in a different state, and anytime there's something new on, and then that night is the new episode, there's no way we can wait until I get home, so we have to watch it separately. So I was watching it on my iPad, and the first episode that we got to see the Night Sisters, I was like, of course I'm not home and I don't get to see her reaction to finally seeing like live action Night Sisters.
I wasn't alone. Thank God. Like our friend Garrett was here, but I was screaming. I was screaming. So excited. That's
awesome. Yeah. And I think a lot of people were loving that, you know, when it popped up like that. It was just so cool when they did that, you know. So tell me about this one.
So the Galactic Star Cruiser was
that's the second one?
Big part of our life.
That's awesome. I wanted to do that so bad before they shut it down. It's just
we're lucky. We were very lucky that, you know, and I feel terrible for there's a lot of people that didn't get to enjoy it. And when it closed down, it broke our hearts. And I know it got a lot of hate and all these things, but for us, it was such like core memories that we got to make there. And we got to go twice. So our first time was actually our honeymoon that we went.
Okay.
So
that's the first time.
Yeah, these pictures are from the first time we went. Okay. And they have these amazing photo experiences that you can do where they take a half hour with a photographer and they go on all these different cool parts of the ship. But like the Star Cruiser just alone there's no way to describe it.
You get there and you're like, these are my people.
Yeah.
I can be who I want to be, and everyone else is doing the same thing. Yeah. And it's just, I think there's so many tiers. We've created a family, a friend family, just from going on the Star Cruiser. Like they're some of our closest friends now because of this like thing that.
Yeah, and it was just such an amazing immersive experience that again, it's so hard to describe other than just like living out all of your Star Wars dreams, like, and you get to be your own character. Like you can come as whatever you want, but like most people come in a character that they, you know, made up, which is so cool. And it's like most people that was really cool. Like the characters that they came as was like a Star Wars version of their real life self.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like I am a tattooer. So my character was like, I've always loved Tatooine. I liked just how gritty it was.
Right.
That's like
the name,
Tatooine.
the Tatooine. Yeah. The name was a coincidence, but I loved how gritty it was. And I loved how like it was like one of the main planets in Star Wars that like so many things happened. So like my character's from Tatooine and I ran a mod shop.
Nice.
And the mod shop was a front because I was like a pivotal part of the Rebel Alliance. So it's like you get to just be whatever you want. And like it's so cool.
And I think that's a huge part. Like obviously we don't want to get super deep in the controversy of all of that, but I think that's a huge part of why it struggled, is because like even us who it's like so close to our heart and we cried when we heard it closed, we're like, I don't know how to explain it. Like it's not something you can put into words.
Yeah.
And it's so sad. And I really hope that something happens, but it's awesome.
Yeah, it did. It looked like such a cool adventure, and some of the other people that I've spoken with, you know, just like you said, you're just immersed in it. So it's like actually just being there, which is really cool, you know. Which I really enjoyed, you know, just being able to watch and see other people's reactions. When I went to Celebration last time, I didn't go to London. No, I didn't go to London, but I've been to the last bunch here in the States, and you know they had that one booth that was talking about it, and they had the people that were there, and you know, and it was just, I was like, oh my God, I got to do this. And you know, I was talking to my son about it, and we were gonna, you know, go, and then all of a sudden he sent me this thing, and I was just like, what?
Yeah,
you know, I was like,
and that was like part of my heartbreak, not only just for like us and like we're never going to get to go again, but the people that were like, oh, I'm definitely going to go, not thinking that they're thinking they had more time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and
Oh,
just
absolutely.
Like, oh,
You always think you have time. You always think you
I
got
think
time.
something else. I think they're going to do something
Fingers crossed.
different.
Well, and it's probably still there, right? I mean, they didn't demolish it or anything, you know, so it's still there and some.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You hear
what
some
they're going to do.
things that, like, I'm not sure what they're going to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I tell you, you know, speaking of tattoos and stuff, this was, you know, the one that's on there pretty close to the top now, I think. And it's just, you know, it just, bam, it's there, you know, that red and, such great detail and things like that, which is, and I think it's really cool that you're such a fan and you also get to do that too, which is sort of like, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's why I get a lot of Star Wars stuff, is because people, whether it's Star Wars, cars, movies, whatever, like people love getting a tattoo by somebody that's also super passionate about it. You know what I mean? And that's really cool. Like when somebody comes to me and they want like a Star Wars sleeve and they give me some of their ideas and I start throwing ideas back and they're like, oh, you're like, this is real for you. And I'm like, yeah, this is my life. So like, and then
awesome.
they're a lot more comfortable and they have more fun with it, you know? So I got the nickname. So I travel a lot and do Comic-Con. I tattoo at Comic-Cons with a group called Ink Fusion Empire.
Okay.
And so anytime you go to a Comic-Con, you see them tattooing, that's the group that's there. And it's a whole bunch of amazing artists from all over the place. But a bunch of the guys are nicknamed me Paul Mall because for some reason, I ended up doing so many malls in a short period of time. Like in a few months, I did like 15 of them.
Wow. That's like one of your favorite characters too.
Well, it's cool because he's my favorite dark side character. So like I just did so many just coincidentally that like it became a joke, you know.
Well, and there's a ton of you know, and I saw a couple other ones, but there's a ton. You got a bunch of Boba Fett's too.
Boba Fett, Vader, and Maul, I think, are the three that I do like the most.
Yeah,
that's the most common too, like because they're the most well known.
Yeah, visually they're like some of the most recognizable. Like,
oh yeah, and the colors in both of them, but you know the greens and reds and all of his, you know, his outfit and you know. His
now there's so many versions of them. There's re-armored versions. There's OT versions. It's all over the place. It's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like this one. It's just old school, man.
Thank you. Yeah,
you know the trooper.
Stormtroopers are always fun. Like I'll never get tired of doing any Star Wars tattoos ever, but Stormtroopers are just always fun because there's so much to them. Just the shapes of their mask, and there's always different lighting on them because they're white and shiny. So any environment they're in, you're always going to get a different reflection. So it's
well, and you do a great job of capturing that because again, I've seen some other ones and they just don't look like that, you know.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And the backgrounds too, you know, your filler and your stuff in the back is just, you know, with the orange and reds along with the black, you know, it's phenomenal, dude. It's great.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I pulled a lot of that from movie posters. So like movie posters are always such a like some of my favorite. Like you know, they're all over, and I love collecting like different artists and things like that, and the way like they are comprised and in the lighting and certain things, like I try to do that a little bit in my tattoos, especially like when sleeves and stuff like that. I try to put it together like how a movie poster would be put together, you know.
Right.
So I think that helps.
Oh, absolutely. Because again, I mean, look, like you said, it's a movie poster and that's what they do. And obviously they have artists there that are just, you know, trying to think of these designs and again, like with that Boba Fett one, you know, a little bit of slave one up in the top or something like that, or you know, just the little Empire thing, you know, down on the bottom with your Stormtrooper, you know, which I think is pretty cool, you know. So, so the live action stuff. What do you guys? What's your thoughts on all this new live action stuff?
Give me all of it. I want all of it. I am like, I don't know who I have to pay or beg or sell my soul to have like a Night Sister series with Ventress. If it has to be a throwback, then that's fine. If it's Dark Disciple, that's fine. I think that Filoni is doing amazing things for the hardcore Star Wars fans, but he's also catering to the new Star Wars fans. So it's like, this should have happened a long time ago, and I'm really happy with it.
I mean, I remember even when Mando started, and it was like, wow, this is fresh.
Yes.
but it's so Star Wars, and it's gritty, and it's like kind of everything fans have been wanting, in a series. But like, I think everything that they're coming out with is just more and more love letters to Star Wars. It's just like they got the right people, they got the right crews. I feel like they know what they're doing. And there's always certain parts or certain shows that weren't people's favorites, but I just love the direction they're going in. I think,
Me too.
yeah, I don't know. I get so excited.
Well, I think the respect to the deep canon, deep lore people.
Oh, that's Filoni. Filoni, he throws references in that I'm like, oh my, I don't even think about that.
And it just makes my little nerdy heart so happy because I get so excited. I'm like, oh my God.
Even like, I remember, so Andor was one of my favorites. I think that Andor, just my personal opinion, was one of the best series we've ever gotten. I think visually, I think it was some of the best dialogue we've ever gotten in Star Wars. But even in the Antiquity Shop, there were so many Easter eggs.
Yes. That's my favorite about this stuff. That's my favorite about all these little Easter eggs, that just pop up here and there. And like you said, you might see one or two of them. And I love just getting online the next day and finding all the rest of them that everybody else has taken the time to stop frame and look at all those things.
I feel like constantly, the meme with Leonardo DiCaprio from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and he's like to the TV. I think constantly we're just like, wait, pause it.
Well, even in Kenobi, there was a Quinlan quote on the wall, and you wouldn't know unless you could read Arbesh, but like, of course we can.
That's awesome. And that's what's so cool for me as the old school classic guy, that I get to see some of these little things, even in the new 3 movies, which they're out there. I can't change them. It is what it is. Right. We still have lightsabers and we still have Skywalkers and good and bad. But for me, some of that visual stuff, when when Rey and Kylo are fighting and you see the Emperor's chair and you see, just from, it's just so cool. And it gives me chills now just thinking about it, how they went back and dove into that and pulled that up for whether it was for me or you guys or the new fans or whatever. I think it's just so cool when they put all those Easter eggs in there and we're able to flash back.
And I think that's one thing. I think it was Jon Favreau that said it. And I'm not verbatim, but he said something along the lines of like, they have to write a story for 2 different fan bases now. You know what I mean? They're writing stories that have to cater to the original fans, and they have to write stories in the same story. They also have to cater to new fans who never really watched it and they're just trying it out for the first time. So I think a lot of people forget that, and it's when you look at it like that, like, can they do any better? Like, no, I think they're doing it just how they need to be doing.
Well, and I think unfortunately it's a time and age, I think is the saying, where hate gets more views because people are watching it being like, these people are crazy. What are they talking about? But unfortunately, like, that's what it is about these days. And so a lot of people won't be authentic. And I think, some of this hate online for the live action stuff is like absolutely mind blowing. Like, there's no way you look at that and think that. I can respect you if you do, but like, are we watching the same show?
I mean, take Ahsoka, for example, that Clone Wars episode. Like,
so good. So good. Yeah.
He couldn't have been more perfect.
Like Rex, we saw Rex.
Yeah.
And Anakin was like so good. And
Yeah. And I think it's really cool that Hayden the fans have come around to Hayden because again, in the prequels, people were like, oh, this guy, this and that. It was all that hate stuff. And when he came back, it was just like people went freaking crazy, which was awesome.
It's because all us prequel kids are like older now. So like we can just respect it even more. And we're like, yeah, that's our
But even with like Hayden and Ahmed Best, and it's just like, it's so great to see these people just be received again and like received with love again, and
so deserved.
Yeah, 100%.
So deserved.
And that's just it, and I've always talked about that. When people bash Jar Jar, it's like, okay, you can say whatever you want, but he is a key piece in this freaking universe.
I agree.
Yeah, he represented it. Like,
Jar Jar. I was one of the few that wasn't like hating on Jar Jar so
much.
No,
and Jar Jar also was made for kids. Like,
and I was a kid.
When he made the prequels, he made it a little bit more to cater to the kids in certain areas. You know what I mean? Jar Jar was just one of those. It was goofy when Qui-Gon grabbed his tongue and things like that. It's funny, it's silly. Like,
I just don't hate it.
No, it's not.
And like you
It's-
said, it's going after both the new fans, whether they're
Yes.
kids or whatever, but along with
Yes.
the classic or even the newer prequel, but it's bringing all this whole audience into it. And
Right.
it is almost like, I think sometimes, which is a good part of Disney, a lot of those animations that they do, some of that stuff is so funny for adults, it just goes right over these kids' heads.
Yeah.
You know, the actual Disney stuff, not the Star Wars Disney, but the actual
Yeah.
Disney movies, and Mermaid and all those, it's just, some of the stuff's like, ooh, I get that, but the 3 and 4-year-olds are just like, oh, that was so cute,
Yeah.
which I think is great.
It's funny when you watch stuff that you watch now, when you watch as a kid, and you're like, there were so many jokes in there that were so adult that I
like so aggressive.
Yeah, like I don't get it until now. It's so funny, but yeah, you're right.
I'm sorry, the dogs are crying and walking around.
Oh no, you're good. I got one at my feet here, and the other 2 I think are sleeping. So, that's my next. I need to get her. I need to yeah, and probably around that age too. I liked season 6 and 7.
That's my favorite too. Yeah.
I thought they did a great job with 7 when they brought it back.
Yes.
But the detail that you have in this, I mean, it just grabs it. It takes it right off the freaking screen and puts it on there. And she's become one of my favorite characters now.
We were just talking about it tonight at dinner. Yeah, like how Ahsoka was one of those characters that, like, in the beginning was so hated, and everyone's like, she's so annoying, and now she's.
I didn't find her annoying, but I watched the Clone Wars series a little bit later than everyone else. So,
okay.
But that's like, now she's in modern Star Wars one of the most important characters.
Oh, absolutely.
And Ashley Eckstein is absolutely wonderful as a human being, and like,
yeah, we love her.
So is Rosario Dawson.
Rosario did great. I think she did well. Even with the crossed arms, she just studied her mannerisms, and and I know a lot of people said, like, oh, she's so, like, dry and stoic, and she's in her 40s at this point, and
yeah, she's 45, I think. Yeah.
Ahsoka, not Rosario, but as Ahsoka,
you made it sound like you're talking about Rosario.
And how much war and battle and friends she's lost, like
so much.
Oh yeah, well, and they touch on that, because again, Balin's like, you're like your master. It's just war and destruction follows you all over the place.
Yes,
which is true.
Yeah,
but it's and they did such a good job with that. People are always at, oh, what should I watch? Before I said watch Rebels. You can watch Clone Wars, but Rebels, you have to watch Rebels before you watch Ahsoka, because it's going to give you so much more into it. It's a live action Rebels with the main character of Ahsoka, which is awesome. And I think they did a great job with all of them.
Yeah, and if you don't watch Rebels, you won't understand. It's hard to understand,
You're like, who's Ezra?
Yeah, who's Ezra? Why are they looking for him? And, like, why is Thrawn so important? Who is this guy? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So I do agree. Yeah, it definitely, you need that context for sure.
Well, and even as we were talking about before, at the end, if you haven't watched Clone Wars, you don't know who the Mortis gods are.
I know, and I was so excited. We saw more, and I just got so excited, and I was like, and the sister's not there, so it's just like.
They're doing, like we said, with those Easter eggs, they're just doing such a good job bringing this stuff around, because again, like we were saying too, it's like, if you're a real Star Wars fan, you're watching Clone Wars all 9 seasons, you're watching Rebels, because again, those are diving into the characters that we already love even more. They're bringing new characters like Ahsoka in here, Rex, different things like that they're bringing back in, but they're diving deeper into these characters, which is so cool for us, because again, you see them for this long on the movie theater.
Yeah. And I feel like Clone Wars made me I loved Anakin, but like Clone Wars made me see Darth Vader as like sad Anakin instead, like hurt Anakin, instead of just this like evil, mean guy. You see him as like someone who's really hurt because of Clone Wars, and you get attached to him in Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about, even with like Kenobi and Ahsoka, the new stuff, like one of my favorite parts of the storytelling of Star Wars is the heaviness of it. Like anybody, whether, anybody whether you either have like, Jedi powers or like anything, there's no good ending for people.
Right.
You either become you go to the dark side, or you try really, really hard like Kenobi and Ahsoka to stay on the light, and your life still is like not great.
Yeah.
But that just shows how much sacrifice it takes
Yeah.
to stay on the light side. You know what I mean? Like you go to the dark side and you get shiny walls and an empire and destruction, and you know, but
you're alone.
But you're alone.
Yeah.
But you stay on the light side, and its life sucks. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, and I think they're doing a good job of keeping that balance. You know, of like,
I'm ready for the Dawn of the Jedi, I think it was called.
the movie.
It's like the origin story of Jedi. So I'm excited to see like the Jedi not hate life so much, because they don't deserve that completely. So.
Well, and I think it's so cool because again, George has brought this to us. That's life. I mean, think about it. All the bad things for us taste so good, and it's so easy to sit around and do this or do that or do the bad things, but to stay on the good track, it's tough, you know, in life, no matter what it is, you know, and I think that brings it out. Yeah,
and visually, like the dark side, you know, if you look at inside the Death Star and inside the ships, it's like shiny and chrome and new, and like, but it's not good. And then if you look at like the Rebellion, it's all gritty and they're in caves and fires everywhere, and it's like, I love that duality of like you said, like good things are bad for you, or the things that taste good are bad for you, you know, like.
Well, yeah, and I love how the costume designers
that's where they
tell a story. Like, even
absolutely.
with that, it's like the dark side is structured and clean, and like, yeah, it looks badass, but like, you know, it's uncomfortable.
But it's an image.
But it's
all an image
yeah.
for them, you know. Like,
but like Rebels and Jedis, they're like a little more reserved, and like asymmetrical hemlines, and like there's like different fabrics because they're kind of just getting what they can, and you know. It's, I mean, like,
you should see her during Andor, every Mon Mothma outfit.
I was taking screenshots and pictures, and it was ridiculous.
That's awesome. Well, and that's what's so cool too. I think now with all this, with the animation and these live actions, how many different scenes now we've seen of Order 66. Which I think is so cool.
Perspectives,
yes,
so
all these different perspectives, you know, and it's just great that we get to see them on all these different, you know, different people and stuff. Which I've talked about this before, but from a certain point of view, I don't know if you've seen those books yet.
Our friend Garrett just got them for us, and I haven't read them yet.
And I do a lot of traveling, so I put them. I have them on audio, and they're so cool because they're little stories about people that maybe you know or don't know, or it might be a TIE fighter pilot that you're in his head and he's talking about a fight, or you know, there's one where I've talked about this before too, where Han Solo's in the hangar bay with Jabba when they redid the CGI, you know, and Boba Fett's there and some of the other bounty hunters, and there's one story in the Empire one, or the New Hope one, where you hear what's going on in Boba Fett's mind, and he's just like, I just want to take this guy out right now, you know.
Yeah, I love that.
So cool little stories, you know.
That's like what these like side quests are, like these, and I call Kenobi a side quest, but it's not a side quest, let's be honest. But like, you know, Ahsoka, Kenobi, Boba Fett, they're all these little stories. That's so true. And it's like, I love that.
Yeah. But I love seeing all the Order 66 stuff still, like from different perspectives, because I feel like Order 66 was like the top of the pyramid of the Star Wars story. You know, like everything was building up with the Senate and Palpatine and all these things, and all the stuff he was doing behind the scenes, and the Jedi Council was all leading up to Order 66. And then once it happened, now all the storytelling is like coming off of that war, and then everybody's experience after all that. Yeah. So I love getting to see that still through different eyes, like even through Grogu's eyes. It was just like, and you know it instantly too when you see it on screen. Before they even mention or before they even show too much that it's Order 66, you know exactly what's happening too. Like, you're like, oh, here we go, you know.
Yeah. Cry again.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what's so cool, I think, again too, because Filoni and John are doing such a good job bringing that in. And we've talked about, like, you know, season 2 of Mandalorian, you know, when you see that X-Wing come in, everybody's just like, what? You know, it's just so cool when they bring all that stuff together, and we get to see what we haven't in between the movies, and we get to see Luke as the, you know, the Jedi master that's training,
Yeah.
and what has happened and how it's, because again, in the books, we have legends and we have canon and then it is what it is. But again, there's still so many cool stories in this universe, which we get to see. And these guys are just expanding on now, like you said, with Kenobi and Andor and stuff like that. It's just amazing. I mean, Kenobi for me was my favorite because I thought it was so cool. First of all, that they switched and we get little Leia instead of Luke. That was a surprise that, but again, they just did such a good job. Hayden's back there, and when he gets his helmet slash, like the tattoo that I just showed, what you had Ahsoka underneath it, and you see the sorrow in Obi-Wan's face, but Anakin is still, and then you get to hear his voice a little bit because the mask is, they did such a good job with that. For me, it just brought, I thought it was great. Everything else, I've loved all of it. The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. I've been waiting since 1983 for that hand to come out of the sand.
Yes.
When he did that. And, there's some spots in there, some of the episodes were, okay, but again, all in all, and same with Andor, I thought that was fantastic. It's for me, it started a little slow, but man, they finished it up. It was such a good job.
Yes.
And there's no lightsabers, there's no force, it's just such a, and it sort of, you get to see part of the galaxy where there's not all that. And what they're building over here to go against the Sith and the Jedi, but most of these people on those planets at that time didn't really know what was going on. Okay, we're conquered under the Empire, and that's what we got to do.
That's what I love about a lot of every show that comes out, every season that comes out. There's always that one thing in that season where just like that made the whole season. Like for Kenobi, it was that duel. It was a duel between. No. What was the scene for you?
The conversation between him and Leia.
At the end.
I just like that meant so much.
But even still, like that's the one you took away. Like in Ahsoka, it was the Clone Wars episode. Even the episode after that for me, where like when you first see Thrawn, in Book of Boba Fett, that finale when him and Cad Bane fight, and then he's riding the Rancor.
But see, everyone's I have a different moment.
But that's what I'm saying. Like
every single one.
Every season, somebody has something where they're like, "Oh my God, I've been waiting so long to see that happen." You know?
Yeah.
And they're
doing
so
it cool. And it's so cool because again, both of you have that moment, but it's a different scene.
Yes. So. I think for Andor, it's a tie. It's the prison break and then that elevator speech.
I don't know.
That elevator speech, I think, was like some of the best I've ever heard.
There was a great like monologue, but it's hard for me to pick a specific moment because I just love seeing like that gritty underbelly of the rebellion. Like it was like that's what needed to be done that we don't see it because they're not these big flashy heroes. Right. And so it's nice to see somebody like, oh, I could be that person. Right. Like if you put yourself in those shoes, like that could be anybody, and it's amazing and it takes courage.
And that's what's funny about like us is like we both have such a love for Star Wars, but we both take different things. Like hers is all Jedi. She has Jedi tattooed this big on her stomach, and I have the word rebel on my face in Arabic. So it's like,
right.
But at the end of the day, it's just a love for Star Wars. It's
yeah.
This whole galaxy, and I love that they're continuing it, and it's going on and on, whether people are bashing it or whatever, they're still going to continue to do it because there's so many fans out there, and even if you're not a fan, the cinematography, the views, all these things. I mean, my dad will turn on Ahsoka. He doesn't even know who she is, but it's a cool, it's a cool, fights or battles and starships, and they do such a good job. It's still very entertaining, I think, for people that aren't immersed in it like we are.
100%.
Right. And that's catering to the new demographic for sure. Yeah.
But even like we saw, what was the movie called?
What?
Last night.
The Marvels movie?
Yeah. Okay. So we saw the Marvels movie last night.
Okay.
And I'm not a big Marvel fan. I mean, I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I watch it and I'm so used to my like comfort Star Wars. Like even like the lighting on the costuming and like, it just like wasn't Star Wars, and like it wasn't moody enough, and it felt like not like it was a.
Well, the Marvel movies are a lot more polished. You know, it's a lot more superhero stuff.
But
is a
it's
lot more
very
polished.
like, yeah, it was very like, I don't know, but it just it's weird to see it because then you see Star Wars and then you're like, okay, this like dark, moody, cinematic thing is like that. I guess that's what I like. It's not just the Star Wars part. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. Well, and I think it's really cool that you guys were talking about Dark Disciple. What a good book.
So I read it not prepared mentally. Loved Ventress, was not, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I was not prepared emotionally, mentally. And I read it once and I told him, you have to listen to this. Like the audiobook is amazing.
Yeah.
And I said, you have to listen to this. You're not allowed to cosplay as Quinlan unless you listen
and
to this one. So
and it's funny because after even the little bit we got to see in Clone Wars of him, like I always loved this character. You know, he's kind of sassy and he's just like whatever, kind of follows rules, kind of doesn't, kind of like he's like Quinlan with an attitude. You know what I mean? Like, or I mean, I'm sorry, Qui-Gon.
Yeah, I was like Quinlan.
He's like Qui-Gon with an attitude.
Yes, absolutely.
But like, you know, reading the book, I was just like, oh my gosh, this character. I fell in love with his character, and I've always loved Ventress, but like his character just was insane. Like,
what boy didn't love Ventress when she took off that clone trooper helmet and kissed him while she was killing him? Like, I mean, everybody, you can't not think that's amazing. But
it's just such a good, and there are so many cool. I was a big fan of Choices, and it's a big Mara Jade. You know, where she was, you know, she was the emperor's hand.
Yes.
Wow. You know, and then she's Luke's husband or wife. I mean,
well, I mean, Luke's pretty handsome, so she couldn't,
so that was a fun one for me because it was just a cool, but Dark Disciple, I thought, that went to a whole different level.
It was supposed to be in Clone Wars.
Yeah, so actually that whole book was written for a couple episodes of Clone Wars just before it got canceled. Cool. Yeah, and so it was technically written for screen, but because it got canceled, they didn't want it to go to waste because it was such good writing, so they turned it into a book. Yeah,
that's cool. I did not know that. That's pretty neat because that would have been amazing to see on the screen.
Imagine that live action, how good it could be.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I'm looking forward to with all, this movie is supposed to be like all of these things coming together from Filoni.
Yeah. They've opened up a whole new world, like Aladdin. They've opened up a whole new thing with the Night Sisters because that is
such a missed opportunity
to see them in front of Dathomir now and stuff. It's like, okay, so you are going to go into this. We're delving into this now. Like this is.
But there's such a big story arc there that we didn't get to see in live action, and it's so so much.
That's why Maul is one of my favorites. I think Maul has one of the coolest story arcs. Just
personally. Oh, absolutely. Well, and again, there's this thing. If you don't watch Clone Wars, you're watching Solo going, wait a minute, I thought Darth Maul was dead.
Yeah.
So it's it's like, wait a minute, he had spider legs, so it's like he survived. And if you don't see that story, and see how he progresses in the Clone Wars, and becomes who he was in Solo, which was cool, and that I can't think of what it's called, but the new book Crimson just came out.
Crimson Blade.
Yeah.
With
I haven't read it yet, but I want to read it. Yeah.
It just and the reviews are fantastic. I've heard everybody saying that it's phenomenal. So that'll be a good one because I'd love for them to add on to that too.
If we're making requests, I just would love to see a small, little tiny. It can be like 5-second flashback of Satine and Obi-Wan, just like happy and in love, and I just need that for my heart. And it can be like a fleeting picture. I don't care. I just want to see it in live action.
I think it's gonna happen.
I know, but I want it so bad.
That would be cool because again, Easter eggs like that are really cool, but and that's I thought was sort of cool when when Maul fights Palpatine again, in the Clone Wars, and and him and his brother, they just think that they're Savage, they're just gonna kick it, and he just comes in and shows you why he is the Emperor.
Yes.
and why and how powerful he is with the dark side. And it's just, it's just, which, and again, that's why you got to watch Clone Wars, so that you can get these base stories and figure out, oh, okay, who's this other guy shooting purple lightning, this old guy with a scruffy face, and
it fills in almost all the gaps between, this part of the timeline to this part.
I've watched it like 10 times. I put it on when I'm sewing all the time, and so it's like my comfort show.
Yeah.
So it's definitely it's easy to watch.
And I remember when first time I saw Rebels, at first I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this.
For me.
But then it became one of my favorites. I mean, that season, or that series was so good. So good. And even, with
Bad Batch too.
Well, that's one of my favorites. But
Tech, our boy,
my boy Tech. But and then to see Anakin and Vader again, and like that moment where she realizes it's him, and I even the small parts of storytelling where one of them cut part of Vader's mask and the other one cut the other part of Vader's mask, and Luke is the only one that took the whole thing off. Like, I just love things like that, where it's just
so much care is put into it,
and depth.
And if you're not a true fan, it just sort of falls by the wayside.
Yeah, it doesn't take away from anything. Yeah.
Right. You don't take away from it like what we do with, because we're so deep involved in it.
Yes.
Very much so.
But it's been really cool to watch her kind of just because with my tattoos and stuff, I love it. I get to enjoy it, and I get to, talk Star Wars and do all these things. But like to see her, especially start with her lightsaber stuff, that's kind of where your content.
And I am not coordinated. I'll tell everybody that right now. It took a long time for me to even learn how to do figure eight. So it was like, it's been a journey. It's been a journey, sure. That's
pretty cool. But again, it's just so much fun, that we get to, and you get to be who you want, and you're able to make those costumes, this is I think this is cool. This was one of my favorites when
so this one this is every time
you sent him that picture.
I love this photo. I love this photo
so ridiculous.
I love it. But like that, so we go to Disney World a lot. That's like one of like Galaxy's Edge is one of our favorite places on the planet. We always, anytime we go, we thought that year we're like, we want to wear like X-Wing suits, kind of, but like as if like an X-Wing pilot's like on vacation. So just orange. But her mom actually made those vests for us, and they're on point. They're so good. And it's funny when we walk around and people are like, oh, where did you get that vest? Oh, your outfits. And it's just
had a porg so they have like porgs that look real, and so I made like a baby carrier fake thing. So we had like our baby porg with us. It was ridiculous.
That's awesome.
But
it's fun.
You even wear the vest just out.
Yeah, well, we won't admit that to everybody else. But I feel like there's always something Star Wars on. But it's just fun because I think all of us secretly want to be like a bad guy or a good guy, or like like an X-Wing pilot or a TIE fighter.
There's a character for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Like
I
this.
just pretend that in real life. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, TJ, do you do most of these, or do you create most of these costumes, or?
I learned how to sew.
Yeah.
So this was the first time. Oh, the other time. No, this time.
You made that before Ventrtesss.
Yeah. So I learned how to sew. I didn't know how to sew, and I was like, I could do that. Toxic trait of mine. I think I can do anything. Maybe not great, but this was like an Avar Chris style, because I was reading the High Republic and I didn't get too far, but
you love the visuals of the High Republic.
I love the visuals. They're beautiful. And for me, I always wear black. I always am dressed in black. And so when we went on the Star Cruiser, I'm like, I should wear white because it allows me to step into a character. And the response I got from so many people was just like, I was like, I get to be me and everyone thinks it's cool.
But that's absolutely with that Mythos Ventures from San Diego. Yeah, you made the only thing that she didn't make was the belt buckle that was this big that we had our friend 3D printed. Right. That was we painted it.
Oh yeah, you painted that.
But every single tiny little thing on that whole outfit you made by hand.
I wish you sent him a better picture of it, but
and I'm gonna share your stuff right now. So You can all look at on TikTok. You can see TJ at Drop It Like It's Hoth, HOTH. And then Instagram, same thing. Drop It Like It's Hoth.TJ. And a lot of your stuff's on there because I was checking it out, which is really cool. It's pretty awesome.
I will say this past like month, I think it's really important for everybody that's doing social media. I just took like an unintentional break. It's for mental health, and it's great, to recenter yourself, because there can be a lot of negativity. And I think it's really important to take care of yourself first, instead of just post something because you think you have to. Like, I try really hard to just post things that I'm proud of, and not just because I have to, sort of thing. I don't know if that makes sense.
We've also been pretty busy. Now she's making
crazy.
every version of Ventrtesss.
Yeah,
I'm making the Clone Wars one right now, so should be interesting.
That's cool. Have you guys done? I'm sure you have. Have you done Celebration?
So Celebration is the one that we have yet to go to.
You guys are gonna love it. It's
but it's in Japan, and I know
that's
in Japan this year or next.
I know in 25.
Yeah, it was. So we were gonna go to London.
Had tickets and everything.
We had got tickets and everything, but then we got the opportunity to go to the Star Cruiser for May 4th
with all of our
friends, and the massive group of our super close friends were going to be on that voyage and stuff. So we were like, oh man! I was like, Celebration. Before I knew it was in Japan, I was like, we'll just go to the Celebration the next year. But like, this May 4th is the only time we're probably ever going to get to do this. So I'm glad we did do that because it closed.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I'd probably just pass out if I went to Celebration. I get so excited when I see other Star Wars, especially girls, because it's so awesome to see women obsessed with Star Wars. And so like, I'm like everyone's biggest cheerleader, and I get so excited. Just see all the costumes and stuff is so cool.
Yeah, and you got to become good friends with some really big cosplayers too, which is cool. Like,
I mean, like, I don't know how, but it's been awesome. Like, I've just met so many amazing people that are super supportive of me too. So I just love that. I love the sense of community.
Yeah.
People say Star Wars fandom is really toxic, but I agree in some senses. But in the most part, I have found my people there. So
yeah, and I think we all do at some point. You roll up and stuff like that. But again, I think at Celebration, it's all Star Wars.
I know
it's not Marvel, it's not anime. It's just so again, everyone that's there loves Star Wars because it's a good price ticket, but again, and the cosplay that's there is phenomenal. I was talking with Chris Bartlett that I've had on the podcast before, and he was talking about it, and like yourself, TJ, he loves, seeing the cosplay because he did that before he actually was in the live action and in the movies and stuff. I mean, he made all his costumes, and he was telling he still makes all his costumes for his his stuff now, and it's just so cool where I like to go up and talk to and say, hey, do this and celebrate them for making that costume. And if it's not the exact fit or this or that, it's like, make it for you. It doesn't have to be that exact thing that you saw in the movie or you saw in this picture or something like that. Make it fit you, because if you are portraying that character, that's what's going to come through that costume.
And we actually got to meet him.
I got to show him my Ventrtesss,
and such an amazingly nice guy. I mean, he was so awesome.
Him and Kat. So cool.
And he got to sit and talk with us for a little bit, and
such
he
an
was
inspiration.
Super cool.
It's so cool, and it kind of gives like us with pipe dreams hope that like one day we might be cast as like an extra garbage
right
can or something.
I just want to be gonked.
Let me be a gonk. That's fine. I'll be happy. I'll do the best gonk anyone has ever seen. No, I just kidding. But like I like what you said, how you can make your own character, and that's what I'm doing with Ventrtesss. I'm doing my own kind of version, doing like a half head with a big wig, because like that's what was starting to happen with Dark Disciple. So it's kind of like an alternate universe of like, what if she got to move forward with Gwendolyn or whatever the case may be. And so I think that's really cool, and I love seeing that.
That's awesome.
It's a
Well, and
lot
I
of
think
fun.
it's really cool that you guys are able to, everybody, it's always funny because when people see me or they see this room, which goes all the way around and it's
Yeah.
thick with everything. But, or I mean, I wear a Star Wars shirt all the time and everybody that knows me knows,
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
me about Star Wars. And they're like, so Lisa, what do you, she's like, well, I love my husband,
Yeah.
Oh, I love
so
that.
that's a good thing, and I don't, and most of it's down here and I try to keep everything, down here. There's a couple things up in the house, which is fun, but she loves it because she knows I do. And she's been to Celebration with me, which was cool,
That's awesome.
and it was so cool to share that with her. And then my dad went one year with me because again,
Oh.
he knows how much I love it. He wanted to see me,
In your element.
yeah, and me and my brother have been to a ton of the movies opening day together. So we went one year together, and it's just such a cool thing that I'm able to share. And especially like with this podcast that I get to have cool people like you guys, and we get to get on here and we can talk about Star Wars, and talk about the Mortis gods and talk about Ahsoka and Luke and, all these different things that we all love. And we all have, we have different opinions on them, but again, we're all together, thinking the same thing of how cool this is and what a neat universe it is that we can sort of escape for a little bit. But again, the beauty of it as well,
That's the blessing and the problem of us both being just as into it. It's like
it's cheaper and better for your wallet if
Right.
they're not both 100%
because
balls to the wall.
we love to collect, just like most Star Wars fans. We are major collectors, and the problem is we get a new piece, we're like, well, now where are we going to put it? Because we both want to see it. Well, she wants it in her office, so she can see it all day.
So
I want it somewhere else. I mean, we have a life-size K2SO in our entryway of our house because it's like
awesome.
But
you got to show, and you got Trust the Force. That's so
that
cool.
was at our wedding. So we had a full Star Wars wedding.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
Classic Star Wars. So like kind of like the shows, like there was like Easter eggs everywhere, and an R2, full size R2. But
it's funny because when we order DoorDash, and there's a small window by our front door, you can easily see the whole front of our house.
It also says hello there at our front door.
Awesome.
But like if you look in, you see 7'2", you see a 7'2" K2SO and a 6'2" HK, like life size, and people are like, "What the hell is?"
But it's in my lightsaber spinning area that we specifically got in this house.
Yeah,
like
so
it's
like
expensive.
It's fun, but like it's just something I'll never get tired of, and
and I love the parallels of like if you look at what's happening in society or what has been happening in society, there's a lot of parallels in that.
Absolutely.
And I think that we can find strength in times that we're not feeling so strong in these movies. And it's cool for me when somebody disagrees with me because I'm like, why?
I love to debate.
I would love to hear why, because maybe I don't have to agree with you, but like, it's cool to see why you think that's cool and why you think what I think is cool is not cool.
Yeah. I got on a flight one time and, I mean, like you, I'm sure everything, my backpack is Star Wars. I was wearing a Star Wars shirt. It's like, and I sat next to this guy and he was like, "You like Star Wars, huh?" And I was like, "A little bit."
Nah, yeah.
And he's like, he's like, "I'm obsessed." And I was like, "Really?" And then, I feel like most people's first question is, "What's your favorite movie?" So that's how you like kind of judge
what kind of
Star Wars fan you are, So like, he asked me and I said, my all-time favorites are tied. It's Return of the Jedi and Rogue One. So I said, "What's yours?" And he goes, "Last Jedi." And I went, "Really?" And he's like, "I always get this look." And then we sat and talked for like an hour and a half about it. And he told me all these reasons why he loves Last Jedi. And it almost made me like I totally get it.
Yeah.
I totally get why you like that. And it kind of gave me a little bit more perspective on a movie that I'm like, it wasn't my favorite, but like, I was like, I love that. Like,
but how is that not any different than reading an extended universe book?
Because exactly. Yeah.
It's like somebody's take on something that's not like it's legends, but like the books made me fall in love with Star Wars all over again.
Yeah.
And all the different extended universe books and the Thrawn books and both, because I've read both of the trilogies and like even the Padme
books, Queen's Hope, and
they were so good.
Yeah.
And it just made me love her so much more. But that's like talking to somebody with a different opinion. They just give you a little like crumb of information that you're like, oh, I never thought about it that way. I kind of understand. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's cool.
Yeah.
What's your favorite movie?
Well, and that's why I got some questions for both y'all at the
Let's do
end
it.
and stuff
Sorry,
here, but no,
Rapid fire. Let's do
I
it.
will yeah, I will do that. Mine's Empire.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I'm an old school guy. My favorite scene is with my favorite character, and it's when we see Yoda and Dooku fight.
Yes.
And I've talked about this before on this, and people probably get sick of it. But it just for me to see him walk in and that lightsaber go to his hand like that, and him just go to town, I was just like, that was so cool, because again, he's my favorite character. But all I did was see him with his cane and waddle around, or not even move, because he was a puppet, you know, for the movies that I saw.
Yeah.
You know, so all of a sudden when he walks in and, you know, with his and drops his cane, and you know, it's just so cool.
Go down.
Yeah.
That's why the Luke scene in the end of Mando season 2, the rescue episode, was such a big deal, because we haven't before that, we hadn't really we didn't get to see Luke in like full Jedi form.
Correct.
You know, because even at the end of Return of the Jedi, he was like just getting into it, and he hitting the whole thing with him and Vader, but after that, we didn't get to see like full force Luke just tearing stuff up.
Right.
I'm proud of you for keeping that PG.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard for me. I'm a tattooer. It's hard.
Oh. Yeah. So I got a few questions, and you already answered the one, but I'll have, and TJ can. So TJ, what's your favorite movie?
Mine's Revenge of the Sith. I get so much hate for it, but I don't even care. I was a prequels kid, and I just love how it all comes together. I love that movie. I don't know. I just everything about it.
Nothing beats that Mustafar scene. Like you just
no, and that's what I was gonna say. That fight scene is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the prequels. I mean, Phantom is like not that big for me. Like it's cool, but like Attack of the Clones I love it because it's this love story between Padme and Anakin, and like there's so many. Her costumes are so amazing in the movie, and so. But then I also love Return of the Jedi. Like that's also one of my favorite movies. So it's like I'm a prequels kid, but I still love Return of the Jedi as one of my favorites for sure.
That's awesome. No, that's cool. So I'm gonna assume your favorite character, TJ, is Ventress.
Yeah, and that's changed because like I've always loved her, but I just like after reading Dark Disciple, I just can't get enough. And like Obi-Wan is also...
like Kenobi's like your other favorite.
Kenobi's my guy. Like, I just adore him. But Ventress is like, my life has taken a Ventress turn, and I can't go back. So, but definitely,
and she's such a cool character, though.
Yeah,
which is awesome. Yeah,
this is accidental. I did not even like. It's subliminal now. I don't know. But then I also I'm also sort of weird, and like I love the creatures. Like I love the Varactyl, and I know a lot of people hated the Varactyl, but like I just love. I want a Planet Earth Star Wars where we can see all the creatures, because I get so excited.
Like Morgan Freeman, like narrating as if it were real.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I've always been a droids guy, so like the Rebellion was always my thing, but droids were always my go-to favorites. Like R2 is my favorite character. Next to K2, like K2 when Rogue One came out, it's like this is my guy. This is everything. Like
he's kind of built like me, also, and he's sassy like me, so maybe that's why.
So everything that comes out, I immediately like the droids are just like my.
I have a soft spot for droids.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, and I've become such a huge fan of Chopper.
Oh, he's awesome. I mean, you can't.
Such a good character that they've brought in, and you know, it's funny we've joked about on this before. He's a war criminal. You know, you think Asajj has killed some people? No, Chopper's.
Chopper like enjoys it also, which is like kind of concerning. But like also
he's like a sociopath.
But you can't help but cheer for him, and you love him.
And what I think is cool too is you can go the next day if you can't figure it out what he says. The next day on the internet somewhere, someone has interpreted what he has said, which I think is cool too.
I just always interpret it as swear words, and then it makes me happy.
He's got to be in the list of favorites for sure.
It's so hard when people ask that though, because there's so many, and then I'm like, Hera's so amazing, and then it's like there's so many characters that I'm obsessed with.
Yeah, and that is, and you like different characters for different reasons, because R2 is one of my favorites because again, R2 knows everything.
He's the OG.
He knows from the beginning to the end. Yeah,
and he kept his mouth shut. Like he knows that. I always now knowing those things, like scenes where like Luke finally goes to Dagobah and meets Yoda, and Yoda and him are just pretending not to know each other.
Yeah, he's
like just like. He's like hitting him and stuff, and
not my cow, not my farm.
He's like, this need for me to tell you, Luke, you got to figure this out.
Like, it's so good, and they wipe C-3PO, so because again, he would spoil it for everybody,
Oh, but 3PO is just so precious, and I just want to hug him because poor 3PO just gets bullied the entire Star Wars.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, so favorite scene for each of you guys throughout the whole universe.
Oh,
come on.
How do you ask that?
All right, let's do movies. Favorite scene in a movie.
Favorite scene in a movie.
You gotta go first. I can't right now. I gotta think. There's so many.
I mean, I'd say one of my favorite scenes definitely is in Return when Luke and Vader, in that just visually where they're on the steps and that's that blue background and like that, like visually, that's just like one of the coolest scenes ever.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I think my autism is showing because like I can just think of little moments that are so important to me and so, for the weirdest reasons. Like Luke riding a tauntaun on Hoth is just the coolest thing ever, and I love that. But then I also love like those little special moments between Padme and Anakin where you see that real love and But then that scene at the end of Revenge of the Sith where like on Mustafar when he's like, I loved you, and like you can just feel it. Mm-hmm. But then Dex in the diner is so cool.
Yeah.
I think another favorite of mine is the first interaction with Luke and Yoda's still playing his like goofy, like, oh, like whatever, crazy, whimsical guy. And then all of a sudden it just switches.
Right.
And his face changes and he's talking to Kenobi and he's like, I can't train him. He's not ready. Like that scene is like, whoa. And I talked to my friend Ryan about it. That's one of his favorite scenes too. Yeah. And like those kind of moments where it goes from one mood right to another mood.
Or like when Luke asks him so many questions, he just dies.
Well, and I think that is such a cool moment there because again, you have we see the prequels how Yoda really is.
Yeah.
And for me, I thought that was cool because again, that's what I saw. I saw him this goofy little thing, and then all of a sudden he turns into he's the Jedi Master. When I first saw it, and I was like, oh, so I thought that was cool because I went back to that as an Easter egg, sort of, when we get him as that serious Jedi Master, and he's pretty much serious. Prequels, hey, it's war. We're going to town and we need to stick up. This is what we do. This is who we are, and he stays true to that. There's no funny little goofy stuff, where, with that you get in Empire and then, like you said, he just switches and you're like, oh, there he is.
But if we're talking like, did you have a favorite scene? Or did you say
I mean, I have so many. I can't pick one. And
I think in the shows, I think one of the scenes that's I'll still watch just the scene by itself is in Kenobi, that battle. Like just the heaviness of them talking and then Kenobi's apologizing, like, I'm sorry. And
I can't watch it because then I cry.
But I think that's one of the best scenes because even the lighting changes on Vader's face. You know what I mean? In certain moments and like, I don't know. And then the prison break scene that's like one of the best from Andor. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I could watch that over and over and over. That whole thing. And his speech when he's in the microphone and like pumping them all up, like, oh god, I just said,
We did dress up like we were prison breaking.
So that was one cool thing. Nice. With Star Cruiser. It was like 30 of us, I think.
Just that night,
or more, 30 or more of us. We all got the prison outfits, the Narkina 5 prison suits, the white with the orange stripes.
Right.
And we ran around like 3 a.m. We all ran around the entire Star Cruiser yelling one way out.
We were whispering.
Awesome.
Well, kind of.
Yeah, but
kind of. It wasn't that quiet, but like that was a fun scene. But like, there's I think there's just so many scenes.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a hard one to pick one, because again, there is so many, and as you continue to like think about that, oh yeah, and I like this one too. So
yeah. I think from the beginning to the end of Rogue One is my favorite scene.
Yeah.
And like what were those? Oh my God, why can't I remember?
What?
The howlers?
The dogs in Ahsoka? Like the wild
those
dogs?
things.
Oh,
I
yeah.
need to have one. I love it so much, and I was so excited about that.
Yeah.
But there's so many little moments that.
Yeah.
And that's what's neat, because they keep bringing new cool things into this universe.
Yeah.
And that's what sort of had to draw me back on some of the stuff that I've, because I'm like, oh, okay, Black Series. Okay, I got to get all of them.
Yeah.
Okay, this Funkos. Okay, I got to get all of them. And I'm like, okay, whoa. I have to go draw back. So that's what I've been doing and now I'm getting away from all of the new stuff where I'm actually going back and buying the 70s stuff.
That's cool.
That I get to put together and I'll have it out, and yeah, it's more expensive, but again, I'm not, buying 15 Funko Pops and putting them around.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm able to buy the Hoth scene,
Yes.
or a Y-wing or an X-wing or something like that, and put that in the collection, because it's, for me now, that's a little bit more meaningful, because there is so much new stuff coming out, which is great, and good. And I hope, the more they make on the toys, the more movies and stuff they're going to make, and TV shows, which will be fantastic.
It's nice to go back and like start to appreciate where it started again,
We also are getting like designer sunglasses that are Star Wars. Like, I'll never complain about that. Or like, if we're getting things that are everyday use things that we can like put a little
merchandising
nerdy...
is just
Oh yeah, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Yeah. All right, I'm going to finish up with 3 questions.
Yes.
TJ, I'm going to do you first. There's only one or 2 answers, so you don't have to think. It's just one or the other. But this gives Paul a little bit of time to think about his answer if he wants to.
Oh no!
But you guys probably, and I know one of his answers already. But anyways, Jedi or Sith?
Oh no, Jedi, obviously. Yeah, but a little bit of Sith in me. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Solo or Rogue One?
Rogue One, 100%.
Clone Wars or Rebels?
Clone Wars. I can't not. Yeah.
Okay. Paul, Jedi or Sith?
Rebels. No,
not Force sensitive.
I still have to say Jedi because I just relate so much more.
Yeah.
Rogue One for you.
Yeah,
right?
That's 100%.
And Clone Wars or Rebels?
I'm gonna have to say Clone Wars. As much as I loved Rebels,
really?
As much as I do love Rebels. I love it. There's so many of my favorite parts of it, but Clone Wars for me it has everything. There's too much in it that I love. Maybe if we got more seasons of Rebels, my answer would be different. But
really,
yeah,
we had like all our beloved characters in there.
Yeah, I think Clone Wars is my answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, if I were to put Bad Batch in there, would that switch your answer?
Bad Batch.
Yeah. Bad Batch. I didn't even think about that. I forgot. And I love Bad Batch, and I can't wait for season 3. I think it's going to be cool.
I don't think my emotions are ready for season 3 because like it's just so breaking my heart.
Quick funny story. Again, sorry for anybody's spoiler. If you haven't watched season 2 Bad Batch, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, but exactly.
Yeah.
I was in Florida tattooing at MegaCon when that episode with Tech came out, and at that time this new episode of Mando and Bad Batch came out on the same day.
Yep.
Well, you were obsessed with Tech.
Tech is my favorite Bad Batch character.
I think
that's awesome.
Tech is like also like an autistic.
He's you.
But like he's also like an autistic representation of people who like struggle a little bit with like knowing how to do proper emotions, like when other people are super emotional. And so it was like he just saw me as Tech.
Now she has autism. We're not making it like
this is not like it.
So like
I'm okay with this. This is fine. Yeah.
Those episodes came out on the same day, and she got to watch them before me because I was working. So I went back to the hotel. And she was like, I was like, we were FaceTiming, and I was like, I'm going to go watch the episode. And she's like, wait. She's like, do you want to end on a super high note? Because that was the episode of Mando where all the Mandalorians fought on Navarro, which was such a cool scene.
Yeah.
And she's like, do you want to end on like a devastated note? And I was like, why?
Oh,
And I was like, obviously, I'd rather end on like a high note.
I was like, are
So
you sure?
she's like, all right, well, watch Bad Batch first. And I was like,
Yeah.
why? And then she's like, just call me when you watch Bad Batch. So I was like,
Mhm.
oh no, no. So yeah, I watched it and I was just like, I
But
can't
so
even,
many
I
people
can't do
came
that.
up to us because like it was a well-known thing. Like with the Star Cruiser, we had like this huge community, and everyone knew that he loved tech. So people would come up to Paul and say, "Do you need tech support?" and give him a big hug, and it was so cute. At first, we're like, "What are you talking about?"
I was like, tech support. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, what a way to go. I mean, he is a gangster.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And Endor, the new trailer's out, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I waited until I came home. I didn't watch it without you. I waited to come home. I haven't watched it.
See, that's good. Well, so you guys can watch it after this.
Yes.
Yeah, I love
Oh, we're
this.
gonna.
Yeah.
We're putting on
And I think what's cool too, and it's not a spoiler or anything, but
That's fine.
they're doing what I think the 12 episodes, and I might be a little bit wrong, but they're doing like sections. So they're going to start off sort of like where we ended, but then they're going to do I think 3 or 4 episodes, which will be a year, and then the next 3 or 4 episodes of the next year, and then they're supposed to end right at Rogue One.
That's what I heard. Is it's going to end right where he's going to meet the guy in the beginning of Rogue One.
But so we get 3 movies essentially.
Yeah, because they're going to have 3 or 4 episodes of that year, and then this year, which will be awesome, I think too.
Take all my money. Take it all.
Yeah,
Take all my money.
I am very, 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 very excited. I think Andor was my most anticipated show. Kenobi was yours, and then Ahsoka was like both of ours.
Yeah, Kenobi was really special to me too. We have a picture of literally us ugly girl crying. And like I always like watched it, Kenobi's saber, and I was holding it, and we're just like so ugly, and it was great. But there's so many. I love what it's like to be a Star Wars fan right now. We have so much to look forward to, and it's really amazing.
Yeah.
And it's just some tattoo content for me.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
More characters and things that come out. And thank you guys both so much. I mean, we could sit here and talk for 3 hours. I know I could. I know you guys could too.
Really bad. Sorry about that. We're ramblers.
I'm definitely gonna look you guys up next time I'm in Colorado if you're around. And
and we have a lot of conventions planned this next year. So if you're ever doing if you're gonna be at some conventions, let me know.
Okay.
We're doing Con and
C2E2, Emerald City. Yeah. If you're going to be the Denver one here is really good too. So, and San Diego.
Yeah.
So let us know. We'll definitely have to meet up.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, I'm going to end this again. Thank you guys so much for being on here, and
thank you so much.
Stay tuned for the next Star Wars Jedi chat. And until then, may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.